Hey, what is up, mortals? Welcome to part 6 season 3 of What If Deku Was a Dragon Slayer. I just wanted to greet you guys by just saying, sit back and relax, you're in for a treat. So, we begin. The UA students underwent 10 months of brutal training. The classes at UA had been tame compared to instruction under the fairy tale wizards. All of the students agreed that they were insane. The students of 1A had always believed that Urza Scarlet had been a harsh taskmaster after training under her fellow wizard. In the art of magic, they now understood why she was that way. After a long day of magical training, the US students were all asleep in their dorms within the guild hall. A meeting was taking place in an upstairs room of the guild hall. Makarov Drayar, Lucy Heartfilia, Urza Scarlet, Mavis Vermilion, Principal Nezu, and All Might sat around a conference table. Several magical monitors lined the wall at the head of the conference table. The images of men and women in business suits could be seen on the screens. Nezu cleared his mousy throat and spoke. Welcome everyone. I am glad you all could make it to this meeting. The bear mouse man then turned toward the scenes. I also want to thank you ladies and gentlemen for joining us remotely for this important meeting. One of the men on the screen spoke in a formal tone. Enough with the pleasantries. Nezu, let's get down to business. Very well. I think we should start with the reports on the state of the world. A well-dressed woman spoke this time. That is easy. It is terrible. For several months the villain called Acknowledger has been attacking every major city on the planet. He appears in that black dragon form of his and consumes every quirk in that city. And then destroys the city. And then he moves on to the next one. Another official speaks up. He has already wiped out over 10 metropolitan areas. If he keeps going there will be nothing left. Why is he doing this? Makarov got a disturbed look on his face. Acknowledges only desires destruction. This is how it started on Earthland. Urza agreed. The master is correct. The beast cares only for destruction. He will keep fighting and destroying until everything is gone. I don't mean to be rude, but should we be listening to these wizards? It is their fault this monster is even here. Nezu was going to interject but Mavis beat him to it. The man has a point. If we had beaten Acknowledger on our world, you all would not be facing this disaster now. For that, I and the other members of Fairy Tail are truly sorry. The other wizards at the table nodded in agreement. Mavis then continued. That being said, what do you think we have been doing since we arrived on this world so long ago? We have been doing everything in our power to find something that can end Acknowledge's days. The short woman pointed at the screens. Is there any of you who can say that you have dedicated that much time and energy to such an important task? Makarov added. Let us not forget that we have been warning all of your leaders about Acknowledge's presence for many decades now. Each and every one of them did little to nothing to help us reach our goal. We may have brought Acknowledge here, but you all decided to accept his presence. A silence fell over the conference room. The faces on the screens all wore looks of shame. Well, that got heavy really quick. I suggest we get back on topic. Let us discuss a solution. A man with a squid-shaped head agreed. You have a point, Nezu. Passing the buck will achieve nothing, and the longer we fight among each other, the worse our situation becomes. I, for one, would like to hear what these wizards have to say. The other leaders reluctantly agreed. Before that though, we in America have some interesting information. When the creature attacked he did not destroy the whole city. He devastated a large section of it, but then retreated. It also seems that his ability to steal quirk is limited to a narrow area. War information shows that his radius is about 100 feet. Any quirk outside that area is safe. Well, that is some good news, sir. It also seems that he has a cool-down period. After he uses a city-leveling blast, he disappears for 2 weeks. It is only thanks to that and the help of the fairytale wizard's pocket dimensions that we were able to keep casualties as low as they are. Urza replied to them. Those pocket dimensions were a failed attempt of our guild to create a prison for the beast. Our hope was to trap him and give ourselves more time to find a solution. I am at least grateful that our research was able to be useful. All Might then spoke up. Do we know where the villain is now? That is a weird thing. He was seen flying over the US toward New York, but then he disappeared from the radar completely. He has not been seen since. How long ago was that? About 2 months ago. It is a total break in his pattern of attacking a major city every 2 weeks. All Might rubbed his Chadley chin in deep thought. I can only speculate, but it is likely this destructive hiatus is due to his acquisition of All for One. Makarov got a quizzical look on his face. How so, All Might? As you all know, the ability to transfer quirks from person to person is extremely rare. In fact, All for One was the only individual in written history with that ability. It is likely that the process takes a toll on the body. Even one as powerful as this Acknowledger would have trouble using it full force like his has been. Right out of the gate, Nezu nodded in agreement. A good point, but we must use this time to prepare. After all, We know that this villain will not stop until everything is gone. With those chilling words from the Animan, the War Council started to lay out their plan. After the meeting, Lucy and Urza stood in the hallway. The two women had worried looks on their faces. Lucy was the first to speak. Do you think the students are ready for this? Can anyone be truly ready for something like this? The plan is set to take place in 2 months. I guess we will have to prepare them all as best we can during that time. That is our only choice. How are the 3 dragon slayers doing? According to Natsu and Laxus, they are improving every day. In fact, Natsu said it is scary how quick the 3 are gaining power. That is good to hear. All 3 of them may only be 16, but the fate of this world and all other worlds rests on their shoulders. Do you really think this plan is going to work? I do. This group we have been training is strong. I have a feeling that they will make all the difference. Suddenly a male voice spoke from down the hall. They may be facing more trouble than they know. The 2 ladies looked in the direction of the voice, and Zareth walked up to them. Elsewhere, in a dark and damp cave in America, Acknowledge sat breathing heavily. It seems that I overestimated the power of all for one. This quirk has taken a toll on my body. But that does not mean that the destruction has to end. The destroyer's eyes glowed a sinister shade of red. Awaken my soldiers. It is time for this world to fall. This video is sponsored by Skillshare. With the services Skillshare provides, you can get access to many in-depth tutorial videos on basically anything you want to learn. Each class that they have is bound to help you with your creative endeavors. Do you want to learn how to make videos like this one? Do you learn how to write scripts or edit audio? Skillshare has you covered, and with our link, you can have a 14-day free trial. So what are you waiting for? Click the link now and get 14 days worth of classes free. Link in description below. Deep in the bowels of Tartarus prison, the hero killer Stain sat in his cell. The man was restrained in a straitjacket with camera-mounted machine guns pointed at him. Altogether, a terrible place to end up. But the hero killer had more than earned his place here. The cameras were all focused on the dark-haired villain. 1 minute Stain sat calmly in his cell. The next, the villain began to shake violently. Stain's skin turned pitch black and his irises disappeared from his eyes. Both of the villain's orbs glowed with a white energy. Before this strange force took over the villain, he replied in a panicked, "Why, master, have I not been loyal to you?" The voice of Acknowledge spoke into Stain's mind. "Did you think you were special to me? Stain, how sad. You were only the first successful experiment. What did you do to me, master? Did you think that the power I gave you came without a price? I empowered you so you could deliver your brand of justice onto the world. Now you will pay me back. And so will all of those who used my power to strengthen themselves." Stain's body expanded. His hands became claws. His mouth and jaws elongated into something inhuman. The villain ripped the straitjacket that bound him to pieces. Standing where the hero killer once did was a dragon-human hybrid. The machine guns engaged. The powerful firearms unloaded many rounds onto the creature. Each bullet bounced off the creature's scales harmlessly. The stained dragon then broke free from his cell and went on a rampage through the facility. It attacked anyone that it came upon with a mindless fury. And he was not the only one. Many of the imprisoned underwent the same transformation. The guards all freaked out. None of them knew what to do. So many prisoners were breaking out. It had never crossed any of their minds that any villains would be able to break out. Before they knew it, the whole prison was in chaos. The dragon's soldiers destroyed everything and everyone in sight. The hundreds of floors above them collapsed from all of the destruction. Tartarus caved in on itself. The ruins burned with a fierce balk and white fire. But then rubble began to shift. The many dragons exploded from the ruins, their eyes still hungry for destruction. Elsewhere, more criminals and lowlifes transformed into the dark mini-dragons. Each one then set out on a rampage. Many heroes fought back against the violence of the dragon-infused villains. The dragon's strength was not the problem. The problem was their numbers. Even as they beat down one dragon, a new one would pop up. Back in the Fairy Tale Guild Hall, in fairy space, Urza, Mavis, and Zareth were in a meeting. Zareth held up a small glass orb to the other 3 heroes. Urza took the small glass object in her armored hands. The tall woman then spoke in a worried tone. "This is definitely a magic La Crema. It is much smaller than any I have ever seen." Zareth then added, "But you will notice that the power coming off it is both malevolent and powerful." It is true. The magic feels just like Acknowledge's. It is. From what we have determined, these tiny crystals work just like the dragon La Crema we made. Mavis got a thoughtful look on her face, meaning that if a person was to implant this crystal, they would gain Dragon Slayer powers. Correct. But since the dragon power inside comes from Acknowledge, it would not be bound by element. All Might came bounding up the hallway. "You all need to come see this." The group of wizards followed the number 1 hero to the conference room. The viewing scenes all showed the dragon soldiers rampaging around Japan. They then saw that there were a few of these attacks happening around the world. That explains the La Crema. It does. All Might got a confused look on his face. What are you three talking about? Zareth then explains how his time working the underworld of the Hero Society had led him to the acknowledge a power dragon La Crema. All Might took all of this information and before speaking. So you believe these magic crystals are what created these creatures? I do. While Acknowledge never used a tactic like this in our world, there is a first time for everything. Mavis chimed in. If I venture a guess, the ancient slayer probably realized after his long battle to destroy Earthland that he would need help. It is likely that he got the idea for these dragon soldiers from watching All for One's Namu program for so many decades. Zareth agreed. My investigation into the orbs found that they had not spread very far outside of Japan. That is why there are only pockets of dragon soldiers popping up all over the world. All Might nodded his head in agreement. I guess we should be grateful for that. But these creatures do mean that our timetable has changed. I agree. I hope the children are ready. Urza's normally confident glare was replaced with a worried expression. They will have to be. All Might, you and Zareth go get the members of Class A and B. I will go retrieve Midoriya, Marvel, and Kaminari. The four heroes took off for different parts of the guild hall. As they walked, they were each gripped by a sense of dread. None of them liked the idea of sending such young heroes into a situation like this. If it had been any other time, it would not have happened, but each of them knew they had no choice. They all prayed that these young people had grown enough over the last 10 months. Urza walked down the narrow hallways of the Fairy Tale Guild. Her normal energetic steps were less so today. In a training field behind the guild hall, the three Dragon Slayer youths were all lying on the ground exhausted. Both Laxus Dreyer and Natsu Dragneel stood over the youths with big grins on their faces. That was awesome, you three. You have finally mastered Dragon Force, and you have made great strides in unlocking the final stage of Dragon Slayer magic. Laxus nodded. True, you three have earned some rest. The three youths did not get up. They all just went to sleep on the ground where they laid. Urza walked onto the training field. The clanging of her armor announced her arrival. She saw the Dragon Slayer teens lying unconscious on the ground. The serious woman looked at the teens, and then at Laxus and Natsu. The crimson-haired mage took a deep breath before she spoke. I see their training has been rigorous. How did it go? Both men started to sweat under Urza's menacing gaze. Natsu finally answered in a worried tone after several minutes. It went very well. Urza, they have mastered Dragon Force. What about the final stage? Did they get that? Laxus answered in a serious tone. The potential is there. But no. Urza bit her lip in frustration. That is not good news. But it is not unexpected. That power can only be obtained under critical conditions, such as fighting for your life. It isn't ideal, but it is what we are dealing with. Okay. Well, that is not what I came to tell you too. Laxus and Natsu knew Urza well enough to know that she was about to drop a bombshell. What is going on, Urza? The Night Mage explained the situation in Japan. These events have moved up our timetable. Urza turned to her pink-haired comrade. Natsu, take these three upstairs so they may rest. Right away, Urza. Natsu used his fire manipulation powers to create two giant dragon claw-like hands. The flaming appendages sprouted from his back. The dragon mage grabbed Kaminari and Midoriya with the fire hands. The flaming claws easily lifted one boy in each claw. Natsu then gently picked up Wendy in his two natural arms. The energetic man then ran off into the guild hall as Urza instructed. Laxus got a grime look on his face. When does the attack start? I still need to meet with Master Makarov and Mavis. But these events mean we must move our plan up. I believe we now only have 2 days to prepare. Not much time. I believe they are ready. They will have to be Laxus. What about Gadgiel and Gray? Have they returned? Laxus nodded. Gray has been here for a while. Really? I haven't seen him. He returned about 6 months ago. You have been really busy with the War Council and planning. At the same time, he has been working with several of the students who gain Maker Magic. Good to hear. And Gadgiel, last I heard he arrived just today. Good. The plan would not work without him. Laxus nodded in agreement. Urza then looked at her blonde comrade. I will consult with the masters. But I want you to tell the others to prepare for the final battle to start in 2 days. You got it. Laxus coolly walked off and entered the guild hall to carry out Urza's instructions. Urza stood in on the training field by herself. She looked up at the false sky of fairy space. Many thoughts swirled through her mind. After several minutes, the worried woman spoke aloud in a fearsome tone. The plan will succeed this time. It has to. I will not watch another world die because of this monster's ravenous appetite for destruction. Urza raised her already powerful tone to an even higher volume. This time Fairy Tale will succeed. Acknowledge it will not destroy another world. Thank you all for sticking around and I hope that you enjoyed. Before you leave, we would just like to let you know that We the Celestials has many other channels for your entertainment and viewing purposes. All the information you'll need is right below here in the description. So feel free to check out all the other incredible projects our team creates. Secondly, on behalf of We the Celestials, I'd like to thank everyone involved in the production of today's awesome content. Their details will be in the description below. That's all for today's video. So goodbye and have a divine day.